Hello, and welcome to Storytime. Today we're reading about Paul from Alaska. Paul had been managing the local UPS store in North Pole, Alaska for several years, and he thought he had a good handle on the community's needs. He had developed good relationships with the customers, had trained an efficient team, and was confident in his business acumen. But one day, a group of elves walked into his store, and Paul's world turned upside down. They introduced themselves as members of the Elf Mafia, a notorious gang that had been running illegal operations in the North Pole for decades. Paul knew he was in trouble. He had heard of the Elf Mafia's reputation for violence and extortion, and he knew he was in no position to negotiate with them. They demanded that he pay a large sum of money, or they'd ruin his business and potentially harm him and his employees. Desperate to protect his business and himself, Paul took out a loan to pay off the Elf Mafia. But he soon realized the interest rate on that loan was astronomical, and he couldn't keep up with the payments. As the weeks went by, Paul grew increasingly paranoid. He knew the Elf Mafia was watching him, and he could feel the weight of their influence bearing down on him. He couldn't afford to pay them back, and he also knew that he couldn't continue to live under their shadow. One day, Paul decided to confront the Elf Mafia. He arranged a meeting with their leader, a menacing figure named Tiny. He pleaded with Tiny to forgive his debt, promising to do anything to make it right. To his surprise, Tiny agreed to forgive the debt, but he had one condition. Paul would have to join the Elf Mafia and work for them as a front for their illegal operations. Paul knew he had no choice but to accept the offer. He spent the next few months working for the Elf Mafia, doing their dirty work and living in fear of what might happen if he ever crossed them.